Hello and welcome to Toby's Blogs 50th Anniversary, the Doctor's Special.
Yes, the first of these videos features the era of William Hartnell, the first Doctor, from 1963 to 1966. Now, from this era, and there's William Hartnell, as you can see.
What are you talking about, my boy?
Okay, so let's get down to business. The first season of William Hartnell's series. The very first story, An Unearthly Child. Now, An Unearthly Child, I think, is a good starting story, definitely. There's good performances in there from Caroline Ford, Jacqueline Hill, William Russell and William Hartnell as the Doctor. And supporting cast in the part there where they go to 100,000 BC by Jeremy Young. Derek Newark, I think his name was. And I can't remember the lady who played her. Name has just slipped from my mind for now. And yes, I think it was a good story to start the first Doctor's era. Particularly the first episode. It's quite interesting, the mysterious Doctor, and obviously where Susan may have been kidnapped. You know,
and like the dark side of the story as well, with the cavemen and the cave of skulls.
That's right, it was quite sort of gruesome in some senses.
And the Doctor nearly tried to kill the other person because they were stopping on their mission, so they wanted to kill the other caveman.
I think Waris Hussein did say, one of the directors from this early era, that it needed to be toned down because they were saying it was a bit too violent. This first particular story, some of the scenes. But the first real classic gem, I think, from the series, the second story, the Daleks. Without doubt, and that's why they made a film. That's right, Extermination.
Termination, I said.
What did you say, Termination?
Termination.
Oh, okay.
Written by Termination.
Oh, sorry, Termination. I think Termination there. Yeah, we haven't quite reached Terminus yet.
No.
But that's a fantastic story.
Yes.
7 parts, but just so much adventure. And that was very important. The Daleks, instantly a success overnight. The Dalek city, extremely well realised on a budget. You know, that was literally a shoestring budget, to be honest. I love the monster in that river or lake.
Yeah, it sucks people in.
Oh, yeah, that was that sort of the
noises,
the atmosphere.
My favourite scene, is when Ian goes to try and warn the Thals, and the Daleks exterminate the Thal, and he runs away. In
an era where music, incidental music, wasn't that huge for Doctor Who, you know, the Hartnell era. I mean, things did move at a slower pace, but in this story, it felt like it was an okay pace to go at, with all the adventure going on. Then, of course, we had The Edge of Destruction, which, to me, I mean, I don't find it as appealing as some of the other stories in that season.
Yeah, it just seems a bit not as good as normal.
No, I mean, it was all in the TARDIS, and maybe because they probably spent a lot of money on the Daleks, they wanted something. It was a little bit lower in terms of
tries
money.
to kill everybody.
So with a pair of scissors, that was a little bit.
And it was just the whole story just didn't seem to make sense.
I think it was actually better to watch it in Arabic.
Yes, it just didn't make sense
for that
really.
One. But you know, albeit it was a watchable story, but
why? Because this button is pressed down, is you run up to a clock and you scream and you attack people. And why is this all happening just because a button's pressed down?
This was early days, to be honest, with the cast and everything. So, and then I believe it was the Keys of Marinus. Was that the very first one?
Age of Destruction. Then it was Marco Polo.
Oh yes, of course, no, because the Keys of Marinus probably was after Marco Polo. Marco Polo, obviously, we haven't seen much of. I would say it's
its return, though.
Yes, that's right. I would say it's a good historical story in terms of it was very factual, but in terms of entertainment value, I don't think it's as good as the Aztecs or the Romans, which I mean both.
Yeah, Aztecs, Romans, fantastic historical
very
stories.
Good stories.
Reign of Terror is also
not even the Crusades. I think it's got some good stuff in that with good actors. But yes, Marco Polo, perhaps not so good, but certainly in terms of costume and sets, brilliant. Without doubt. I think one of the finest for that, and there's a lot of colour photos around for that story, and obviously recently discovered telesnaps, 6 of the 7 episodes. And then, is it the Keys of Marinus?
Keys of Marinus, which is a fantastic
story.
story.
Yes, the Keys of Marinus is just wonderful.
One of the best.
I mean, the wonderful Vords, Arbitan, and then all the places they went to.
Yeah, that's what I like about Doctor Who stories. Doctor Who stories that hop from place to place are really interesting. Each episode, different place.
But some people are very critical of that. They say, oh, well, this is not a proper story because it's jumping here, there and everywhere. But no, this one made sense. They were going to get the keys.
Like those stories like
to stop it falling into the wrong hands.
Dalek's master plan, the chase.
And some of it was so different, which made it even more exciting. My favourite bit was that whispering jungle and that plant strangling that man. Oh, that to me was quite terrifying. Let's just say I wouldn't want to plant in my room at night time now after that.
Yeah, very good stories. The place they went to were very interesting.
And that man in the middle of the snow, you know,
the ice
creepy man.
Yeah, they were very, very creepy.
And that ice, those things.
Those ice lords coming back, attacking people like.
It's like a bad dream, isn't it? Really, watching that one, but wonderful story.
They went to the trial. The trial's where when they trial.
The trial, even that's interesting. I like Martin Court, who gets killed off, doesn't he, by the woman who was in that story. I can't remember the woman's name. I remember Sabitha. I like Sabitha.
Oh yeah, when those things, those creatures.
Oh, the braids.
Yeah.
I have to say it was probably pretty cheap.
Yes.
Inflatable balloons or condoms, whatever they were, but. With mobility and dexterity. It reminds me of my science teacher. Sorry, I hope you're not watching this. Anyway, after the Keys of Marinus, we have the fantastic classic that is the Aztecs with Jacqueline Hill. And this was her story because she was the history teacher and she knew how things should be portrayed, but the problem was she didn't want, she did want to interfere with what was going on, and obviously the Doctor at this point was like, no, we cannot do this, history has to take its course. But she was defiant, and I liked that. I liked the idea that someone wanted to change things, like in Father's Day in the new series, where Rose wanted her father to live from that car crash, and unfortunately, obviously, she couldn't stop it, and the Toxel won, and it was different to see that. Everyone was thinking the Doctor will always win, but not in the Aztecs case. They will still get their human sacrifices.
Historical stories as well, because they all had their own parts, like Barbara.
All the actors were wonderful. The man who played Ortlock. And then
the Doctor gets married to this other woman.
Oh yes, I can't remember her name now. I keep getting her mixed up with Kameka. Maybe it is Kameka. Very well.
Yeah, I think it's Kameka. Yeah, Kameka.
It is Kameka. I get mixed up with Jamaica from another story. But yeah, Kameka and the Cocoa. Which we discovered when we went to a museum lately about that being a very wonderful love potion, really, wasn't it? So, yes, Doctor Who did its research. And obviously we had Walter Randall, one of his first appearances in Doctor Who, as Tornila, which was nice to see. And also Susan was in a very difficult position because... she was going to be married off to someone. She didn't like that. No, I'm not saying for him. I'll make my own choices.
And the high
difficult
priest,
situations.
What's his name?
Which one? Ortlock.
Was he told?
Tornila.
No, the Toxel.
The Toxel.
The one who kills people.
Yeah, the Toxel. Yeah.
Yes, I loved his character. He just wanted to kill everybody and everything. And
obviously, the actor, I think it's John Ringham, that said, was also in Colony in Space. I think there was another story he was in as well. So he certainly was brilliant, a wonderful actor. Sadly gone, unfortunately. So that was the Aztecs. Wonderful historical story and the best one of the first season, without doubt, for the historical front. So let's move on to the next story, the Sensorites. Different story, very different from the Aztecs. Maybe not as well realised as some of the other characters we had. I think there was a good plot line there, but I don't think it was visually as exciting. No, I mean the Sensorites seemed a little bit boring in some respects. And we always mention the fat Sensorite.
Evil, meddling Sensorites trying to kill the humans. And that's quite dark. And the Sensorites,
I suppose he was a bit exciting.
I quite like when they go in the cave and the humans try to kill the
Nice
Sensorites.
idea with the telepathicness. I think that was very interesting. And the poisoned water supply. I think there was a very good storyline there, but it's a shame it just didn't quite live up to my expectations, unfortunately. But a good story, certainly watchable. And then, of course, we had the Reign of Terror. Obviously, we've seen the 2 animated episodes now. Reign of Terror is a bit of a mixed bag, I think. I think it's a good historical story. Again, very well researched factually. But I think at times there was a lot of dialogue. And it was more of... Well, I mean, Doctor Who is perceived as a drama as well as a science fiction programme, but this was very, very drama-based, this one. I would say for factual, I'd probably give it a 9 or 10 out of 10, but in terms of entertaining value, probably about 7. But Ian, I think, played his role very well in this story. And yeah, there was interesting parts in terms of the characters, because some of the characters weren't who you think they were, to be honest. You could trust them. So, and there was some scary moments with, I think Ian at one point was virtually at gunpoint, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So, but
Barbara and Susan were carried off to be executed.
The guillotine. And I think my favourite bit is with the Robespierre being shot in the jaw or something.
It's like when Barbara slaps the guards.
So yes, there were some good bits in there. So without doubt, a good story, but not the best of that one. And that ends that season. So in retrospect, I would probably say from that first season, somewhere between the Daleks and the Aztecs being the best story. I think those two were the strongest. So, second season, we start off with another very different story in Planet of Giants. Yes, we shall choose that one another time.
Right, so yes, tune in for part 2 of this video, and we'll see you later.